Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gumbel, I'd like to pick up right where we left off there. You have given us some very useful information today about our general status at this point, that we've done a lot of work on endpoint detection, but as the attack surface continues to grow, so do our defenses and our preparation need to evolve. I'm interested in what capabilities we need to be integrating into CADS to improve analytics and increase visibility, as you've been testifying about, and specifically, do we need to pay particular attention to the concept of encrypted communication? Are we capturing that now? Is there anything we need to be doing in that space?
Sure. So yeah, that was a lot to unpack, but I believe that Congresswoman, the thing that we still need to do, once you have the holistic view of an entire environment, you have to look at other vectors too. You bring up encryption. Encryption is definitely of utmost importance in making sure that the encryption standards that the federal government holds across all agencies are kept up to date. You also have to make sure that you're looking at legacy providers and technologies that have been built 10, 20 years ago. Are they really up to date? Are they really current today? If they're not modern in their approach, because the adversaries are going to come forth with something new, and they're going to bypass and get past those networks that are being defended today by legacy contracts. So I think all of that needs to be taken into consideration.
Mr. Zakowicz, you indicated earlier on the subject of hunt and incident response through CDM that you needed, you thought we might need to look at changes in congressional authority in order to be really utilizing that as part of our approach. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, thank you. So there were two authorities granted within the executive order that I think were directly relevant to the CDM program's ability to gain insight and access into agency network environments like they hadn't been able to before. The first was associated with endpoint detection and response, or EDR, hunt and response activities. It's being done through an initiative granting threat hunters access to agency EDR tooling through what's called persistent access or PAC capabilities. So that's given them an opportunity to be able to look in those agency environments real-time directly using tools like CrowdStrike and others to understand what's happening in that space. And then the second is access to what's called object-level data. So within the agencies, the detailed information on every endpoint that's being collected and rolled up and aggregated into this CDM dashboard, having direct access to that object-level data allows them to, within minutes, search across the federal enterprise for the presence of, let's say, zero-day vulnerability or known exploitive vulnerability, identify the potentially vulnerable assets within an agency environment across the FSEB, and then use EDR in partnership with the agency to go further interrogate that asset and understand what the risk profile really looks like. And I think CIS has seen some success with that combination of capabilities, with even recent breaches being able to identify in minutes what may have taken hours or days or longer through data calls.
And Mr. Head, I'd like to hear from you on what capabilities you think CISA should be including in the CADS program to help improve analytics and visibility.
If you look at the detail that I've seen, publicly, they had things like DNS and signatures in there, but they didn't have flow. And I think it's really important to be able to see flow. In terms of oversight guidance, there's also the notion of how do you know who somebody is? So on a network, a lot of the privacy concerns have led manufacturers into anonymizing the MAC addresses so that you don't know what the device is anymore. And so certainly on federal government agency networks, you need to know what things are, and they shouldn't be able to do anonymization and hide their activities. The other piece I would also mention is you get into the details of things, like you ask about encryption. The purpose of encryption is to keep somebody from stealing your stuff. But if you're in the business of stealing stuff, encryption's hiding what you're stealing. And so the answer isn't to give everybody the keys. The answer is encompass in your logging what file moved from his machine to my machine. And you shouldn't have your audit system be more prone to invasion and privacy concerns than your original network was. So we can do things like MD5, all of the files as they flow, and say this file was the unreleased this, and you send it to him, why? And so I think it's possible in an audit system without breaking the world, but it doesn't do just to start, let's opine about things that are impossible. Let's write down methodically things that are easy and very effective.
Thank you, Mr. Head. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.